back then. And notice any trees? Yeah, it's pretty sparse. Go to the next one. This is a little closer up. And just so you know, they had planted trees. Those little things right in there, those are the trees that you see just outside on that end.
George.
Yes.
Those trees were planted the day that Mount St. Helens erupted. And
Really?
Dave Kurtzwig had brought his plane in. He says to Frank, well, let's get started. And so all of a sudden, Dave came over to Frank. He says, get me up to that plane because I'm going to take a motor out of it if you don't get me up there and get me home, because, you know, all the ash in the
ash in the area, yeah.
I dusted the house 5 times that day, and I finally said, if you don't like it, then
We're
do it
done.
yourself.
Wow, I didn't know that. So, but you guys planted those trees then. They planted those before that building was up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, they did it the day that Mount St. Helens erupted.
I don't know what the connection was to this building and the timing of that.
I don't know.
81 was what I saw on the pictures. Yeah. Anywhere there was 1981. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I grew on.
Yeah, it's on.
I grew up just across the lake, and when we met as a board, considering to come here, this was kind of desert, but it was on the lake. The land was being given to Southern Alberta Bible Camp. And I remember before any buildings, any trees, it was just prairie and cactus and dust and dirt. And we were out there, Frank and Don Steves and a bunch of us, trying to scratch a little furrow in the ground. And in those days, you could get these little twig trees from the county, and we were trying to stick those things in hard, dry dirt. And I could never imagine.
How would they ever grow, for one thing?
How would they ever grow? And then imagine what we have here today.
Wow.
God has been so much in and with and behind SABC, from Aden, out in the middle of nowhere, all the way through to where we are today. It's unbelievable.
You literally see the footprints of God through all that has taken place, don't you? Show the next one, because just so you know, this is kind of where I remember my first time coming out here. This is what I saw. They had done all kinds of work. The place was looking good, but it was still just the old, and go one more there, Josh. It was still just the building there that we had, the old lodge. Now, let me ask a question about the old lodge, because when this was built, there were a few things going on that I know, Doug, they brought you in just before this, right? You came just about that time. So this is 81. You must have been on about 80.
Well, I was involved in the board in about 1970.
Okay.
And then Lloyd Peacock was the chairman. And somewhere along the way there was a bit of a difference as to how to proceed. And I was vice chairman, and Lloyd resigned. Oh my goodness, now what do we do? So through all that, and then Vern Beck took on the chairmanship and led us through that. And somewhere Vern calls, Doug, I think we need your help here. And we'd got into a little bit of debt, and we weren't really sure how we were going to survive. But I remember budget meetings going into 2-3 o'clock in the morning, trying to get things figured out. And anyway, that's Nick Petka was the guy kind of behind the construction deal. And seems like yesterday, but it's been a while ago.
Yeah. Now, Dave, when did you come into the picture with the board?
I got on the board in 1985.
So just after this had been going for a little bit.
Yeah, and we brought our oldest daughter, Anita, up here to the very first camp. And I thought, where are the trees? And Tim actually told me last night, he said, they all died.
Yeah, they all died, yeah. The ones they planted, yeah.
But yeah, anyway. And was that Scott? That was Scott that did that.
Yeah, no, it's those guys at the back.
You know, George, I had Scott and Stephen in Christian Service Brigade in Bow Island.
Oh, I feel
And-
sorry for you.
Yeah, 3 leaders quit that year. But anyway, anyway,
We all have our cross to bear. Now we know which one you bore.
but I did sit in with Doug and I think, no, Arnie came on in 1990,
Yeah,
but,
Vern would have been there because I remember
and,
Vern back.
and Frank Ruggles.
Yep.
And,
Frank was very involved.
we sat through those 2 a.m. meetings, a lot of tears. But you know, God is so faithful. He brought us through those years. Like we were paying, I don't know, Doug, what were we paying? 18% mortgage on that lodge?
Yeah.
And it was terrible interest rates at that time. And Doug came in and he was such a blessing to this camp because he took us through that time. And I had the privilege of being on the board for 3 mortgage burnings, you know, and like,
Yep.
we were here for 2 years ago to burn the mortgage here.
Yep.
So what a blessing, how God has taken us through, and we've affected lives just all through these generations. And it's been
Okay.
such a blessing.
There's 2 stories I want to find out. One is, so you 2 guys, Tim, were you involved at that time too? You were, weren't you? What were the things? Sure, who blew up, but yeah. What were the things that you guys, as you faced some of this, what were you afraid of? Because, you know, sometimes we look at it from this perspective, and it's good for us to remember the things that we saw back then that scared us.
Well, in my first involvement, I was never on the board. I was nominated, but never voted on. So my first involvement with the camp was
That doesn't hurt at all, does it?
the Vauxhall camp. And I remember the swimming was the dugout. I don't know where you got a pool, but
No way, it was the dugout?
after every session, we nominated Dan Nicholson to go down and see if there was anybody at the bottom, you know, at the end of the day, because you couldn't see in there. But that was our first teen camp experience. Dan Nicholson, myself, Ron Kaliba, a bunch of old guys now, but we did that first team camp. That was my first experience. My first time of being on this property, I was out with Lloyd Peacock. We were having some kind of a meeting, and Lloyd and I went over the hill out here where the fort is now, and come down the other side, and here was this giant bull moose. And he looked at us, and we looked at him, and he was trying to decide whether to kill us or just move on. And he moved on, so we were quite relieved. But there was just, like you said, just nothing here. As I think about the camps, I think about the generational impact it's had. We were involved here. Our kids were involved here. Our daughters, when they were growing up. Our grandsons have been involved out here. And I'm praying that our brand new little great-granddaughter will someday be at SABC.
Yeah, now, Marlene, I want to talk about that land and property that you guys gave to the camp, right?
That's right. Well,
Okay,
like
now let me ask you this though about
Frank's
it.
siblings. And he-
Yeah, let me ask you this about it before you do that. Because, you know, our comment is, there's nothing there. Why'd you do it? And what did you see that had a possibility to do what God has done? What did you see?
Prairie.
Yeah, nothing.
No, there wasn't anything, but there was the potentiality of making it something.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, the Lord sent rains sometime.
Yeah. Well,
And it was, I don't know, it was just a real challenge for, say, in looking at it from Frank's and my standpoint. Frank said, there's one thing we're going to do. Whoever comes out here, they'll have a table to sit at, to have food.
Yeah.
There's beds in the house that they can sleep in. So we never knew how many we were going to have.
before you tell me that, where did they all come from?
All over our Prairie District. Frank and I knew pretty well everyone from 3 Hills South.
Wow.
Because they either came and sat at our tables or slept in our beds.
Yeah. She was telling me a story beforehand. So tell me how you figured out how to prepare the food for whoever was coming to your place?
Well, I drove a school bus, so I didn't have time to run over here and check every room and every person. So I'd pick up the binoculars off the coffee table and I'd face them over to the camp. Oh, okay. 4 cars, multiply by 2.5, and it should be about right. Until one day, 2 cars came in and parked at the west end, and I didn't know it, and they started to come, and I said, Lord, I don't know if we've got enough food for this. Well, just leave it up to me. So I said to Nick Petka, I said, bless the food today because we're going to feed the 5,000 on it. And I was telling this story to another lady in our free church, and she said to me, what did you do? I says, I didn't mash the potatoes. You didn't mash the potatoes? No, because men are lazy. If there's mashed potatoes, they take a big scoop.
So you all been told, guys. And what what do they do the rest of the time?
Well, anyway,
Just
it was
pick one
boiled-
out and that's all they eat?
It was boiled potatoes, and some of them are cut in half, some in. So they take a little piece and try and mash it with their fork. That's how we made it through that meal.
Perfect. So you all got a lesson. Now you know what to do. You
This
come to
lady,
Thanksgiving and, just don't mash the potatoes. You'll get to stretch it.
anyway, that's how I kind of tried to serve meals, because it was just, I didn't get home with the bus till after 9. Well, then if you're going to cook for 8 or so, or however many people came, then you had to just get the binoculars up and try and figure it out.
Yeah. Now you were telling me, and I'm going to try to tell it. She wants me to tell this story, but I don't know it quite well enough. You and Frank were thinking about, and you must have been talking with your siblings about this property, and the pastor from Bazzano, what was his name?
Pastor Tomlinson.
Tomlinson. He was talking to you about that as well, wasn't it, in that setting?
He and his wife became good friends of ours because we go to the camp every night to hear them sing. And one night they said to us, that land of yours that you and your siblings gave, we need a camp over there. They had the vision for this camp. And so they said, we've just prayed. If the Lord should if he decides that we need to give the full sacrifice, then we're willing to do that. They told that to us.
Yep. If they were willing to do whatever it took to give even their lives.
So Frank and I were going out, taking the boys out fishing, and we were picking up one of Everett's buddies. And all of a sudden this news flash came on the radio that said 6 people were murdered in Bazzano. And I says to Frank, I hope that's not Pastor Tomlinson and his wife. And it just said that, and that's who it was.
It was them.
But this guy, he
Yep.
just kind of went off the beam. He shot his wife and 2 children. And then he went looking for all the other members of our free church in Bazzano. They were all taken away to go. It was a long weekend. And the only 2 people left in Bazzano from the church was the pastor and his wife, and they were on their knees having their devotions.
Yep. And he came in and shot them both.
Yeah. And then he turned the gun on himself later on.
They gave their lives.
Yeah. So that this.
And all you had, and she told me this, she said, and all we had to give was land. All we had to give was land.
Yeah. And then Pastor Tim went to Pastor Tomlinson's.
Oh, yes.
Their
Tim, tell us that story. So you went to the funeral, I hear. And when you got to the funeral, you thought you saw a resurrection. How come?
The speaker at the funeral was Pastor Tomlinson's twin brother. So he walks out on the stage and most of us about fainted. So,
Okay, next slide. I think I better speed this up. So the next thing that happened is we built the Traverse Lodge and added that on to the old lodge. And that has served us so beautifully for so many years now. Just the joy to be a part of all of that. And we had our problems with that one. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Wonderful new entrance to the building. And one more. I want to ask about that period of time because, Dave, were you the chairman then? Yeah, I think so. We had an interesting time through that, didn't we?
Yeah, we,
Our projections were off a little bit.
yeah, a lot. But I still remember coming up here during the summer, and John Gartley and I sat out on a picnic table out here, and we said, boy, this lodge is getting pretty bad. We gotta think about building. So John drew out a sketch on a napkin out on the picnic table. And I said, boy, we got to take this to the board. But we didn't have any money. And so Doug performed another miracle. He said, yeah, we brought this consultant firm in, and they did the expansion for the Free Church in Lethbridge, and I think Oaks and some other churches and buildings, and these were the experts. And they said, you can basically triple your annual budget. We needed about $5.5–6 million.
Well, we figured 2 million, I think.
We figured, well,
or
I think
2.5 or
it
something,
was
right?
2.5 million.
Yeah.
So, okay, what do we do?
Yeah, 3 times our budget would have been maybe 500,000.
Yeah. So we were a little short.
just
And
a little.
So anyway, we as a board decided, and Doug did the accounting, and he said, if we can come up with 10% of this $5.5 million, I think that was our target. If we can come up with 10% just from the board members, it's a go. And I still remember Doug coming out, piece of paper. He was crying. Doug always cries over good financial statements. And he said,
cries over finances for 2 reasons. One is how bad they are,
yeah,
and one is how much that they do for God's work.
exactly. So he said, looks like we're pouring concrete. And it was a go.
Yeah.
So we went around different churches and presented our plan. And we had, I think, George, you were on the design committee. I know Arnie was involved, and certainly Doug. But, God provided. And it was just such a blessing for the supporters and the prayer warriors. And God provided those funds. And the next thing we know, we had a beautiful addition to the lodge.
Yeah.
And we tore the old one down, and this is part of the new build.
Don't go that far yet. I still got
We won't
more
go
for
there.
that one. I want to talk about this a little bit more though, Doug. This is something I so appreciate about Doug's input here. And I know Dave says he performed a miracle. That embarrasses Doug. And it's absolutely not correct. God does perform miracles. What Doug does is get the privilege of showing us. And if you remember that time, Doug, I'm pretty sure it was a 2.4 million build or something we were supposed to do, or 2.6. And it ended up being like 4 or 4.5. Isn't that correct?
Well, no.
Worse than that?
When
It was 4 and it went to 6.
when we got the plans all done and so forth, and I'll never forget that fundraiser expert.
Yeah.
Like, you guys can't do this. Like, forget it.
He
Like,
literally said, this isn't possible.
this is impossible. So then we did what Dave said, and the board members stepped up. And another big part of this was the Trust Foundation put up the money to do it. But at the time, it was a $4 million project.
That's what it was.
But as we got rolling along and we had some troubles with rain and getting the footings in properly, I'm no builder, but there were some issues. And if you look on your financial statement, we ended up at 6.2 million. Now, in most business sense of all this, our credibility would have been shot. But we came before our constituency and our membership and bared our souls And before you knew it, I don't know, maybe 3 years, we had the Travers all paid off, and God had just worked a miracle. Our people, you people, our churches got behind it, and the rest is kind of history. But I'll never forget that fundraiser guy. This is impossible.
That never happened.
Your
yeah.
annual budget is X, and you can only do 3 times, if that. And
Yeah, the board, the board after he had said all that stuff was kind of like, oh,
we were
And
pretty
then-
down.
yep. And then we said, well, what if we did this? And Doug started that ball rolling. And I still remember being over by so much and feeling such a failure at having the vision to see what God was doing. And there was reasons for it. One of the things was the sprinkler system. You know, all our guys had figured we're just gonna, on the sprinkler system, you know, you're all in irrigation. So all we need is a good irrigation thing. And you do this and you do this and you do that to get the sprinkler. And it turns out it's not allowed. You have to have a very specific irrigation system, a very specific irrigation generator and pump. And it cost us an arm and a leg. And then we didn't have enough power. We had to change from the 2-phase to the 3-phase. We also didn't know that. We got blindsided by so much, but it was like, we should have known, but we didn't know. We should have known, but we didn't know, but God did. But God did, right? Next picture. And now we have this. And one of you is talking about, Dave was talking about this, what God has brought us to. Do you remember having to tear down the old one, and why we had to do that?
Yeah, the basically the foundation was crumbling. When you walk through the hallway by John's office, it was just like Mount Everest. It was curved and everything else. And yeah, we were talking about before that, when we were talking about the renovation, and we thought, we can't even renovate this place for 2.4 million. So we just said, no, we got to build new. It's just going to cost too much money.
Yeah.
And we had to go to codes.
Yes.
There was restrictions. Our bathrooms weren't to code. Of course, all new builds got sprinkler systems in, and so we just said, no, it's time to remove it.
Yeah.
And I think we had the Lethbridge Police Force out here, Cam Van Ruin and the
right.
crew.
Here's a story for you.
And well, John Gartley better tell that story.
Yeah,
because
John,
boy,
where are you? Oh, I probably got him hiding.
John,
you
so-
remember that story with Cam and what they did? They had their SWAT team in here. And they had some of our guys acting as the bad guys so that they could, it was quite the fun moment. So and we ended up tearing that all down. They didn't have to worry about breaking anything. They could do anything they wanted. And they had a lot of fun with that. Here's what I want to ask you on this one. Marlene, first, going from looking across the lake to see the camp and see what was coming to what God has done today. What do you want to thank God for?
Is this on?
Nah, it doesn't seem to be picking up. Grab his and use that one.
Blessings have come out of this whole camp.
Yeah.
We had Frank's funeral here, and we had Shannon's funeral here.
Memory upon memory, eh?
I think they estimated about 1,500 at Frank's, and there was about 400 at Shannon's. And Shannon says, I don't want it any other place, just
At the
take me
camp.
to the camp.
Yeah.
But
It's why we have the baptisms we have.
that's right.
The kids' lives are transformed here. And they want to take a stand for Jesus. And this is the place where they take the stand.
Yeah.
That's been beautiful. Amen. Oh, grab the other one. It's obviously that one's died out for some reason.
No,
What do you thank
have-
God for?
I thank God that my two daughters were saved here at camp.
Ah,
And I still remember Melissa. She always ran up to our daughter, Anita, and said, I want to be in your cabin. So Anita counseled Melissa, and then some of our grandsons counseled Nolan and some of the other kids. So it's something that's affected our family, and really thankful that we got involved with the camp. And can I tell one story?
sure.
Short. We were talking about the water treatment plant. And I think, George, you were on the board at that time. I know Doug was there and Arnie. And we had a guy by Sig Odland, and he was married to Agnes Strom, and she was one of the first campers out at Aden.
Oh,
But that's the
wow.
connection.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
here's Sig. They were missionaries in South America for years,
Yep.
and he was on the board. And we were talking about building water treatment plant, and we had to hire a person to run it, and it was going to cost millions of dollars. And Sig was there. He's Norwegian, and he said, no, he said, we don't need water treatment. He said, you just make the coffee strong enough, and it's good.
That's all you need. Strong coffee. My wife would agree with that.
Well, everybody could say this, and I would echo Dave, the influence on lives.
Yes.
Our 4 daughters are out here. They all met Jesus in new ways, and now they're all have raised their kids. And so you never know the lives that are here at camp, where they'll end up, and what ministry. One of our daughters, Brittany, and her husband, Tim, ended up in Scotland planting churches. It all just keeps expanding. God is never doing one thing. He's always doing worldwide things.
Yeah. Yeah, the reach of what done in people's lives has expanded around the world. Very true. Doug?
Well, I think just echo what the other folk have said here, but the effect on our family. To see John
Yeah.
and Melissa, how they've been here for such a long time and how they're received, and the credibility that John has had a result of. I mean, I think that's so important. And then, you think about the young people that have come through here.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
What's fun is we're seeing them back on the camp board,
Exactly.
and we're seeing them in our churches.
Jeremy Light, Jeremiah Radvansky,
Yep.
Brody Jesperson, like,
Yep.
you can go on and on and on and on. We're privileged and have been privileged over the years. Long time ago, we always had the staff come to our house after church on Sundays. Now, little did I know I was inviting the fox into the hen house, and John had some ideas about my eldest daughter, but that's turned out pretty well, actually. So you see these young people come, and this world is a mess. But these young people that come and serve here, like, it is just so heartwarming, and God is in it so much. It's just overwhelming. So I just thank the good Lord for SABC, opportunity that I've had to be a part of it. And anyway,
Yeah.
you're probably
You remember pretty well all of you have had the chance to sit at a campfire at the camp, and you throw a stick in the fire and give your testimony, and you see the sparks going up. Every kid from this camp is like a light in a dark world. That's what God does. That's what he's been up to. Why don't you give these guys, go ahead, Dave, I'll let you get the last word. Well, maybe not the last word, but close.
But well, no, we were asked by the John and the staff here to kind of give a little bit of a history of when you were on the board and experiences. And
Yep.
one question was, what was your best decision as you made while you were on the board? And I said, we hired John Gartley. So that's the name of it.
Okay. Amen to that. Give these guys a hand. I thank them for being a part of this. Yeah, you can leave the mics behind there on the thing. Take your time. It's really tight on that corner. Oh, Doug, don't run away. I need you. And Arnie, I need you. Where are you at, Arnie? Come on up here, Doug. I know you don't want to, but did Arnie not make it today? Oh, there he is. Yeah. No, he doesn't want to come either. Funny thing that. No, you got to make your way up here. I'm getting my Bible out, just in case you're wondering what I'm up to. These guys have served on our board for quite some time. I mean, you heard from Doug back in the 70s, eh? So we're getting into 50 years of service, and Arnie was telling us 90, so you're getting into 35, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve with these guys. I came after both of them, but we're starting to add mine up, and I'm going, oh boy, that's getting to 30 years too. And realize that, you know, each of you have added something to my life, to the life of the camp, and I hope for all of us into one another's lives, that has been a blessing. And, you know, we laugh about you crying, Doug. That is the thing that has endeared me to you more than anything else, is that in the numbers, you see people. That's why you cry. In the numbers, you see people. You know what it's about. It's about these kids that are coming to Christ. It's about young leaders that are being transformed. And I've heard from both of you, your heart in that. And by the way, Arnie cries all the time too, and he's trying. And I'm getting worse too. The older I get, the more it starts showing up. So, but here's verses I want to read for you guys. This is from Philippians, a book I absolutely love, because it is a book from the heart of Paul to a people he served with. I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you, he's going to carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And it is right for me to feel this way about all of you, since I have you in my heart. And I thought, you know what? That couldn't express it better. I have you in my heart. God has wove us all together, and it has made it a joy to serve. And I just want to thank you for that, and I want to pray for you. But before we do, we got something for you. Now, this isn't exactly it, okay? Because this is John's. He's not giving it away. But it's the Cross Hill, and we're going to have one of these commissioned for each of you by an artist who has been in Telios here this last summer, Mariah Cook. And she's going to make one of these for each of you to be able to hang, to remember. And I know what pictures do. They bring back memories. And that's what it will do for you. Give them a hand, and then I'm going to pray. Our Heavenly Father, these clap that we have given have been for you and the gift you give us in relationships with one another. You build us into one another's hearts. And so you have done with both Arnie and Doug, and we are so, so thankful. We're thankful for the memories that even as we stand here and have talked, the memories that flood back into our minds of times when you have worked in our lives because of what has been done or said, or hearts that have been shared. God, we are so thankful. We're so thankful for the gift you give us of one another. And our prayer would be that you would just continue to bless Arnie and Doug just bountifully for the ways that they have blessed us, the service they have given and will continue to give as they pray consistently, as they care, as they continue to minister and do things for the camp using the gifts you've given them. God, we are so thankful for them. Bless them, we ask, in Jesus' precious name. And God's people said, thank you, guys. Thanks, Doug. You want that one?
Yes, please. Scott's going to get this, and Linnea are going to get this set up for me. Sometimes it's just better to ignore Scott. I'll let somebody come and sort that out for me. I'm not going to try. We've got some business to do. I noticed that the agenda, I think I forgot something important. Doug's gifts have made a huge impact on this camp. Everything that we see good here, we see God's hand on. But God gifted Doug in special ways that helped us immensely. We have been expecting Doug to step out. And Doug and I have had a conversation about succession for about 5 years, not knowing what to do and how to get there. A young lady, well, yeah, there goes my names. Julie, who is a Wilms from, I'm going to guess Grassy is close enough. Am I close when I say Grassy? Julie, when she graduated from university, trained to be a CPA with Munton Michaelis, and now works in a corporate job in Lethbridge. So when we were looking for a successor, we talked to Julie, and Julie expressed interest in the conversation. And then we, of course, had interviews with Julie to ascertain whether it seemed good to us and to the Holy Spirit to ask her to serve as treasurer. And we're excited. It became very clear to us as a board of directors that God, in fact, was willing for us to recognize Julie as the next treasurer. And we expect Julie to be appointed in January because the chairman forgot to put it on the agenda 2 nights ago. Julie, will you stand and be recognized? We're going to appoint her in January. Will you recognize her? Julie's a Steves. You might know that a large number of our board of directors are connected by blood to employees here. That's exciting. Nepotism is often perceived as a problem. Nepotism can be a very good thing. And my experience in this board is that our nepotism is a very awesome thing. None of our board of directors have ever crossed the line with regards to communicating with John Garley about their blood relative working here. It's a little difficult to have a board meeting because so many of my board members have to leave when we have some votes that could impact the remuneration for their children. And now I have a bigger problem. John hired my daughter. And her brother is also on the board of directors as a church rep from Pitcher Butte. So the nepotism has got worse, not better. All our nepotism is awesome. We got John Garley and we've got Scott's sister. Names go when you get up here. But Doug Defoe has a daughter here, and George has a daughter here. It's a mess. I want you to notice the people leaving have been here a long time. We're going to do nominations tonight. I want you to notice a progression because we've been planning succession. I want you to notice it. I have on my agenda call to order. So this AGM has come to order. Excuse me. Item number 3, we need to adopt the agenda from 2 down all the way to number 14. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Somebody whose name I know. Dave, thank you. That was Dave Coots. Second, I got Garth. All in favor say aye. All opposed? There being none, that has carried. Approval of the minutes of the meeting, AGM, November 4th, 2023. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes? Okay, somebody from my board whose name I know. I got Bryce Steves and I've got Jackie Steves moving and second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? That too is carried. Any items arising from the minutes? There being none, the chair surrenders to George, the vice chair. And George, I'm going to ask you to maintain the chair until the presentation of the budget.
Presentation of what? Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, the reason that he surrenders the chair is because he's on the docket for this year. We have vice chair and chair changing at different times. Then we have trustees. We try to keep the every second year kind of thing going on. They're 2-year terms. I think you have the information in there. Our chair nomination is Ted Walcott for a 2-year term. Our trustee nomination, Darcy Johnson, who has served in that role for the past little while. And then a new trustee will be Rachel Greeno. Rachel is not here today. I don't think she could make it. Am I correct? Rachel is from Lethbridge and has been here on staff for quite some time, off and on during the summer. In fact, during COVID, I came down and was kind of the groundskeeper for the summer, and she was one of the team that was here for the summer to keep the grounds going. And so she learned all kinds of things she wasn't used to doing during that summer as we worked together. Rachel has been here serving as cabin leaders and I think a director as well, or programming on some of our spots. So she's well known to the camp, and when asked, she just said, yeah, that would be fantastic. She loves the camp dearly. And then a director sitting on the board. And the way our system works, by the way, our board is made up of the chair, vice chair, some trustees and directors, and then representatives from all the churches that are supporting churches. So we have upwards of, I think, 20, 25 people on that board potential at one time. And so these are positions that are elected. Obviously, the church reps are not elected by us, but these are our elected positions. And so I put these on the floor as our nominations for these positions. I need a second for that. Okay, Mark, we've got a second. Mark Losey. And then any comments or questions about any of these individuals? Except Ted, because you might have way too many questions about him. Hearing none, all in favor of electing these positions, say aye. Any opposed, same sign? Then they all are serving our camp for the next couple of years, and we're thankful. Give them a hand. Thank you for serving with us. I think you're back up. You want Doug to just come up? Okay. Doug, you're it. Do you want me to reset this thing for you? It's quite fading. I'm not sure which one's fading. I think it might be that. Here we go. Get you close enough?
You bet. Okay. It's a bit overwhelming to say the least, but after all the years, everyone has their time and place. And I still feel like I'm 20 years old, but the calendar says different. So anyway, the financial statements you got in your booklet, and I just have to say that with a September 30th year end and all that goes into getting the financial statements together, and then to go to the auditor, and then to present an independent auditor's report and the financial statements on November 2nd is no small task. Like, it's almost unbelievable. But anyway, the sort of day-to-day accounting for all this happens in our accounting office. And Joville, will you please stand? Joville works for, I call him M&M, Munton and Michaelis, and she does all the check writing and payroll and all the rest of it. And then another girl in our office does a year-end file. Then it goes to the auditor. He goes through everything. And then we have the auditor's report here and the year-end financial statements for your perusal. And any questions, please feel free to ask. Before I get into the numbers, Joville comes from the Philippines. She's on a student visa. I think that's what it is. And as you've probably heard, the government is kind of, I don't know what the words are, but clamping down on granting permanent status or whatever to individuals like Joville. So we need that little girl. So let's pray that all the paperwork that has to be done and approved and so forth, so that Joville, she doesn't want to go home. She went to visit and I said, "You're coming back now, you're coming back." So no one-way ticket. So it was a two-way ticket, but she's an integral part to all this. So anyway, let's keep that in mind and a matter of our prayers. So the audited statements are here. The auditor's report, I'm not going to read it. It gets wordy and it goes on and on and on. But the first paragraph is kind of the nuts and bolts of it, where the auditor says, in their opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position and the results of its operations for the year ended September 30th, 2024. So then if you go to the balance sheet, you'll see there the different funds. So Southern Alberta Bible Camp, we operate the general fund, which is your left-hand column there. And then we have some endowment funds. We have the All Aboard Fund, which is the Ride for a Reason, plus other donations come into that fund. And then for individuals that seem not to be able to pay the full weekly fee to come, we take monies from that All Aboard Fund and transfer it into the general fund to cover their registration fees. Then we have the capital fund and the total capital assets. So there's some pretty big numbers there, which we can be very, very thankful for. And I'll speak a little bit to that, laying the framework for ongoing. But in our general operating fund, you'll see there at the end of September, we had some cash on hand, some short-term investments, some receivables, some inventory, and some prepaid expenses, which is primarily insurance. So we have total current assets of over $1 million. The prepaid expenses, if you recall, we spoke of the water plant that was going to cost, I don't know how much money if we did it ourselves, but we went to the resort and we made a deal with them to give them a check for X amount of dollars to have them look after the plant and the manpower and all the rest of it. We still pay per cubic meter of water that we use, but that amount is significantly less by prepaying this amount, and we figure we're amortizing that over 25 years from the time we give them that check. There's some due to and from the different funds. So total assets in the general fund of $1,273,000. We have a few liabilities there, nothing too significant. The unearned income, $50,800, is deposits on future rentals. So organizations, churches, schools give us $1,000 deposit for future rental, and that's unearned income until they do come. So in the general fund, we end up with an unrestricted balance of $1,115,841. Now you might think, man, that's an awful lot of money, and why do you need all that money and so forth? But if you kind of look at the total expenses and take out those that are, we might term as variable, I think we'd have approximately $1.4 to $1.5 million of near fixed expenses every year. And it's no hard and fast rule, but it's been suggested by different consultants or authorities or whatever, that a charity maintain 6 months, at least 6 months of fixed expenses as a reserve position. So that when we had COVID, like, how are we going to pay the light bill? How are we going to pay the staff? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? It's kind of a one-off thing, but still, that's the suggested amount, at least 6 months as a reserve. So if you take our assets in the general fund, less our liabilities than the long-term prepaid, we have approximately $900,000 of reserves, which is a favorable amount to the suggested $750,000. So looking forward, and I guess as a treasurer, you like to leave things in good shape. I think we're in a good position moving forward. The other funds there are indicated, the balances in them. I'll just speak to the All Aboard Fund. That All Aboard Fund, we have a equity balance of $238,000, and that is used to supplement kids that can't afford to come. We have kind of a policy that money will not determine whether a child comes to camp. So if the individual says, I can't afford the weekly fee, we pay out of the All Aboard Fund. And that's been a very, very good thing, I think, going forward. So in the All Aboard Fund, we transfer about $200,000 out for those people. And so we have 1 year's reserve in that fund going forward. So again, I think we're in a good position there. Capital Fund, you see there, we have a balance of $978,000. Now, if you recall, which you probably don't, but past financials, our capital fund was generally in a deficit because we owed money, we were building, we were trying to get ahead and so forth and so on. But the last couple of years, the Lord has really blessed. Some significant donations via estates, and some of those and individuals have just stepped up like only by the grace of God, that they have stepped up. So at the end of September, we have $978,000 in the capital fund. And that depends so much, and you'll see in the budget that we're going to bring, that capital fund, it's a lot of money. But if all of a sudden we say, look, we need more staff, we have to build a duplex or a housing or whatever, it's not that much money. It's going to cost you probably $400 a square foot to build some sort of a building. So in this day and age, everything seems to be elevated to the nth degree. So that's the balance sheet. If you look over under the 2024 total, we have total assets of $14.5 million, a few liabilities. So our total equity there is 14.288. Over on the income side, the statement of operations. Now, and I have to explain, you board members that are looking at this statement, you're going to say, well, those aren't quite the numbers we saw Wednesday night. What's going on here? So it's a little bit of an accounting anomaly or whatever, but the auditor wasn't quite happy the way we were showing the monies coming out of all the board fund over into the general fund. It was kind of a duplication accounting for the revenues, and I'll explain that as we go through this. But so on our previous statement, if you look under the all aboard fund, the way it was presented, we have the income totaling $232,000. Everybody find that? Going to make accountants out of you today. And then in that fund, we don't have any expense. So for the year, we're showing a positive $231,000 in that all aboard fund. The way I had presented it to the board, I showed an expense in that all aboard fund of $208,000 going over into the general fund. The auditor didn't like the looks of that. And on the other statement, you'll see that it's just a transfer between funds rather than a recognition of revenue in the general fund. Might be clear as mud, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is all the same. So in the general fund for the year, we had revenues of 2.5. Expenses are there, 2.4. So not counting the transfer from all aboard, we're showing $31,171 positive in the general fund. One thing I'd just like to point out, the food cost, if you look at the budget, the food cost was budgeted at $390,448. That number is 23% of registrations, rentals, flex, Dave's Meals, anything to do with food. 23% of that is $390,448. But in actual fact, we did have significantly more rentals, more camp registrations, and Dave's Meals was about the same. But if you take 23% of those numbers, you come in at about $430,000. And what did we spend? $433,000. Now, with all the talk of groceries are going up and I can't go to the store and everything's more, I think our people in the kitchen have done an amazing job. Like that number could have been, well, not could have been, but you would expect it maybe to be significantly more than that. I just wanted to point that out. The other expenses, I think, are pretty much on budget, and they're there. When I kind of get done, you can make sure you ask questions. One other thing I'd like to point out in the capital fund, and again, the Lord has just provided, like, it's hard to get it through your head. But anyway, last year we budgeted to receive $422,500 $500 to the capital fund. And you see there, we received $864,898. Like, praise God. The endowment funds, they're just the income, the interest income, plus we had some appreciation in the investments we hold. And then we paid scholarships out of the Thompson Royer Fund of 41,000 and a couple of others there. So you see the bottom line on that. Our total, now if you look at the total, we had $4.4 million of donations and rentals and so forth. Like this is no small business. This is one big business for the glory of God. Our expenses were 2.9. Us guys that need trifocals, you kind of got to get, it's a little small print. But anyway, overall, with all our funds, capital, general fund, you see their income over expenses, $1,033,420. Kind of blows your mind away. Okay, if you look over at the changes in fund balances, and that's where this all aboard situation came into the picture. We started the year in the general fund with 875, and we add the 31,171 that we just looked at, and then there's a transfer. You see that on the bottom, the second last line, out of the all aboard over to the general, leaving the 115,841. That's exactly the same number as a board that we looked at the other night. The endowment funds are there for you. All aboard, we end up at 238. Capital, we end up at 978 going forward. We got plans for that as we do some research and so forth. And then our capital assets of 11, there's a note to financial statements. You can see the cost there, I think about $15 million, less we're taking some amortization. We end up with book value of 11,140. I think probably I've taken enough time. I would be more than happy to try to answer any questions. I think we find ourselves in a little different position. In the past, it was always, how are we going to accomplish this? Are the donations going to come in? And maybe we weren't all that confident, although I think we were, but you're kind of wondering. But today we're in my mind, a really wonderful, wonderful financial position. So what has God got for us going forward? We have to be so in tune with Him. He has blessed us mightily. I don't know what other words I can say, but we're in a great, great position. The Lord has blessed us to the nth degree, beyond what I could ever have imagined. And going forward, God is going to use this place and what He's blessed us with. And it's only how God puts His hand on you, our supporters, the people that believe in SABC. God has touched your hearts, and through that, He has really blessed SABC. And I think we want to be very, very cognizant of that, and good stewards. In all my years, it's overwhelming how we've been supported, and are we good stewards looking after what God has blessed us with? It's such an important part of it all. And that results in, I think, credibility in our staff, and credibility in the organization that you people are a big part of. So that's my auditors and financial report.
Let's pray before we go on. God, we see Doug standing up here, pointing us to all the things that you have done in the last year. We just want to recognize that we're grateful for the role that you've allowed Doug to participate in here. But we know that you're a great God that has done a great work using him. We're grateful for him, and we ask your blessing upon him. We think of Joville right now and the need for her to have a little more stability with regards to her visa. So we hold that concern up to her, and we ask you that you'll provide Joville with the paperwork that she needs, the favor she needs with those who make decisions about her future. We recognize that you've placed her in a great position to bless this camp. We're grateful for her, so we hold her up before you for blessing. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Doug's presentation represents a motion to adopt the financial reports and the audit financial report as presented. Is there a second for Doug's motion? I've got Julie. All in favor enthusiastically say aye. Aye. Thank you, Doug. It's unbelievable. I was sitting beside Julie on Wednesday night. I said, Julie, Doug has left this camp with minimal cash flow management concerns. We have the cash to finance operations, and it's amazing. It's the first time that we've been able to, and you'll see the capital budget. It's the first time that we do not plan on waiting for the donations to pay for capital expenditures. It's exciting. We're on the verge of a new day. I don't know what it looks like, but we're on the verge of a new day. All right, I think, Linnea, I think the floor is yours.
Wow, that was incredible. And when you see all these incredible men up here saying all these incredible things, and they seem very impressive, but if they actually encounter a boiled potato, they're absolutely lost. So thank goodness we're getting some women on the board. That was a new joke just for you. All right, hit the desk here. We're gonna do our top 10, and this desk is phenomenal. We're gonna do our top 10, and I wanted to do top 10 reasons camp was better than dad jokes, but we could only come up with like one about a canoe and stuff. So we decided to go a different route.
Yep.
We are going to do the top 10 reasons why working at SABC is better than a summer job. All right. So number 10, the top 10 reasons that working at SABC is better than a summer job. Number 10, more variety. You can clean rooms or clean the kitchen or clean the grounds. Actually, there's no end of the amount of places you could clean at SABC. So close.
Number 9, they don't feed you at a job.
They do not feed you at a job.
That failed.
Number 8, not getting enough sleep is expected at camp.
Number 7, Auntie Tony. I
Full
see
stop.
you.
Full stop. Number 6, the staff are not allowed to date.
Number 5, less parents at camp.
Number 4, there's no tuck shop at summer jobs.
Number 3, doing dishes at camp is more fun and makes your hands super soft.
Can't get her to do it at home. All right. Number 2, you don't have to worry about taxes.
Last one, number 1, every week at camp has a new batch of friends.
Yeah, all right. Top 10 reasons why. All right, I think, what's next?
I think we need to invite Auntie Tony up.
I think I'm also done with this desk. Move over, I'm bringing a chair. Try again. Do you run the tech here at camp, Tanya?
I do not. I do now.
What was, if you had to
Just
pick
so
a-
you know, I'm Scott's sister.
Yes.
My favorite parent.
Thank you, Ted, for that gift that you gave me. I really
Yeah, it's
appreciate that.
Christmas over here for him. It's great. Yep.
So, Tanya,
Yes.
are you new here at camp?
Yep. Yep. Only been here, 7 years.
Ted's really getting to know you.
Slowly. Yeah. He didn't. But I am Linnea's favorite parent. That was established this summer.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any questions for Auntie Tony?
No.
No? Should we ask Auntie Tony questions about you at camp this summer?
Yes.
So many secrets we can't tell, Linnea.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
so many
Yeah.
inside jokes.
So many. Yeah, it was super amazing to have Linnea at camp, working at camp this summer for the first time. And yes, she didn't go home. She stayed at our place, which was awesome. I know that one of her top 10 was weekends in Lethbridge, but we decided that was like pretty exclusive. So we thought we'd broaden the horizons of the top 10. But yeah, this summer was pretty amazing. Like Linnea said, our summer was glow, which was pretty awesome. A couple of the verses that we had this summer that was kind of like the basis for all of the things that we did this summer was Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. And then that leads right into the second memory verse of John 8:12. It said, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And it was just such an incredible theme every year. As we come up with a theme, we're a family who really just loves theme and gets on board with things, probably more than we should. Scares most people. But I think one of the coolest things of when we pick a theme at camp is that God just like takes it and runs with it in ways that are beyond what we think that it will look like and the things that it will do, and just the ways that it's going to impact. Yeah, to be honest, every summer and including this one, there were some really hard stories, some really dark moments where kids shared their stories or we as a staff walked through things, and that feels pretty heavy. But with the theme glow, it just seemed to continue to remind us of the light always. And the cool thing about just who God is and that Jesus is the light of the world and that each of us carry that light. Yeah, George said it as well, where every kid is a light out into the dark world because they carry Jesus with them, and the encounter that they have here with him is just, it's undeniable and it's so powerful. Focus Weekend is 2 weeks before camp starts. It's kind of a transition time from our spring time with our staff to when we invite all of these hooligans to come and join us for this crazy weekend called Focus Weekend, and it's so fun. During one of the big sessions, this room is full of high school and young adults, and it's just packed. And I read these verses to our staff as like, guys, our theme is glow, and we're so excited because Jesus is the light of the world. And the room like just spontaneously responded with cheering and clapping, and threw me off in the best way possible. But it was this organic response to that truth because they carry the light. Because they each personally had that light in them, and getting to declare for the first time together as a staff that Jesus is the light of the world. And that was the purpose of what we were going to do, from washing dishes to doing media to leading a cabin and everything else. It was just extraordinary. And it was that. There's so many stories like that. Our cabin leaders were amazing. God just provided the right amount and a phenomenal group of humans that regularly went to worship. They regularly went to prayer with each other, for each other. There was one night during cabin leader training where we kind of came across the the room that's right below us, Crossview, and the cabin leaders were all in there just kind of doing their own worship thing. And we were like, guys, you got to go to bed at some point, but maybe after a couple other songs. But they just were drawn to the declaration of who God is. And that was a big part that transferred, that light was spread to our campers. There was a song this summer that kind of became our anthem, right, Linnea? What was that song called? Yeah, pretty incredible. It started, we played it on the Glow meal on the very first week of camp. There's like a DJ moment happening in the dining hall. It's all dark and there's glow everywhere. And they played the song Praise. And the campers and staff alike, there was this spontaneous response where they got up from their tables and they came together and they jumped and they danced and they yelled. And the line in the song is, my God is alive, how can I keep it inside? How could I stay quiet? And that became the anthem of the summer, in that we carry this light. This light is bright, it will not be hidden. And so this song was every week, it was every finale, and no matter the age of the kids, whether it was like high school boys or 6-year-old girls, there was this response to praise in the summer. And so it was pretty cool. And those were things that early on in the summer that I know that God parked there for us. So when we found ourselves in darker times, harder times, when the darkness seemed to encroach, we were like, no, we have the light of the world. And we carry it, and He is. And we don't have to doubt that, and we can walk through the darkness carrying the light, and it can't win. And so it's pretty incredible. There's a million stories to be told, but we don't need to hear them all from me because I don't carry them all. All the stories don't live with me. Most 90% of the stories live with the incredible youth and young adults that come to camp and give their lives for a period of time to be a part of what God is doing here. So I'm going to invite up 3 of our summer team so you guys can come on up.
All right. Tanya, while they're
Scott,
coming up,
Scott.
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You know, you guys you plan. You love to be prepared and plan, and you get everything ready for this camp, and you know, they do all the financials and all that sort of thing, and we get everything ready, and then God steps in and, you know, surprises us all the time. Do you have a story where things, all your preparations and all that sort of thing, it was like, oh no, and then God was there?
Oh yeah, like a million of those. But I'll jump to the very first week of camp. We're prepared. We've done all the things. These guys are ready. And classic first week of camp, there was storms and crazy weather, and there were sick kids, and there was kids who were struggling with how to behave here. And but we were in the middle of a crazy weather thing, and Jordan, who is the guru of program and schedule and all of the things planned and then flip it on its head, and it's still fabulous in ways we didn't even imagine. But we ended up having to pull all of the students into the gym and pull off a gym blast that we hadn't planned. And it was amazing. And Nora and I were standing in the middle of the gym, and we're like, okay, so we're going to play this one. She's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm going to lead this one. And she's like, okay. And so I led it, and I was like, you got it? And she's like, yep, and handed it off. And they just incredibly brought these kids. Kids didn't skip a beat. Kids don't know. Kids are just like, these people love us and care for us. And yeah, God just steps in those moments and equips His leaders to just simply follow one another and to follow His lead and to believe that He's going to do something with something as simple as a gym blast and games to create experiences which creates equity and trust, which creates relationship, which creates conversations to talk about the Lord. And so that's why we play games, is because we know that it creates those things so that we can have equity, so that we can have conversations with kids about Jesus. So that's my story.
That's perfect. Nora, it's your first time at camp?
Yeah, I've never been here before. Cool place though. I don't know why I didn't come earlier. This is fun.
So Nora,
Yeah.
what's your name?
Let me introduce myself. My name's Nora. Hi. Nice to meet you. First time here if you didn't get that.
So
Well, your journey here is a little different than a lot of the other staff, but
Yeah.
how would you describe, what's your story of getting to camp? Quickly.
Yeah, quickly, briefly. Well, I was born here. That's how I got here. No, my parents raised me here. So this is going on my 21st summer at camp, which is crazy. So it's actually not my first summer, if you didn't get that. That was sarcasm. Yeah, but I think I kind of grew up going to camp here, loved it. It was such a cool opportunity to bring my friends who didn't know Jesus to a place that was full, saturated with Jesus, and they got to be introduced to him here. And my life was changed being a camper here. And then I got to go into being different types of staff. And then this summer was my first summer as a spring staff member. And just again, like my life has been changed here. I say this to people all the time, but like it is a totally different game when you're literally being paid to tell people about Jesus and to get kids excited about the freedom that we have because Jesus came to this earth and died for us and then rose again so that we can have a relationship with him. Not everybody gets to do that type of job. And so I love camp. I plan to be here until I can no longer be here. They kick me out or something. But yeah, I absolutely love camp. It's the best.
Awesome. Yeah, your dad was so good at it. He also got paid for telling people about Jesus. Cohen, you're next.
Yeah, so introduce myself. My name is Cohen, and is that just the start? Or
Yeah,
keep
tell us
going?
like what was your story to get to camp this summer?
Yeah, so I heard about camp through my church and all the great work that they do. I was like, I need to be a part of this. This is so cool. So applied for a 2-week media position, and then had a meeting with Tanya, and she's like, we have a spot open for a media position for the whole summer. So then after a lot of prayer about that, I accepted it, and I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah, you can agree with the top 10 reasons why working at SABC
Oh,
is
yeah. Yeah.
awesome. Hannah, you're next.
Yeah, well, I'm Hannah. Unlike them, this is my first summer at SABC, and I kind of applied off a whim, I'm not going to lie, to be a cabin leader. And again, through my interview with Tanya, ended up being on spring staff and had many moments in the spring of like, what am I even doing here? Like, what is this place? But yeah, I mean, obviously I'm still here and it was incredible. And I can definitely agree with Nora. There were many moments in the summer where I would look to people and be like, this is my job. Like, I get to work here and live here and just, yeah, tell people about Jesus. And that's incredible. And I am so thankful for that opportunity. And yeah, it's been amazing.
So you're an apprentice. What is that?
Yeah, so after summer, I got hired as an apprentice here. So I'm one of 4 apprentices at SABC. Myself, Megan, Jesse, and Alex, who I think might be doing dishes right now. So thank you for that, you guys. But yeah, we get to work here. Me and Megan get to work with program, and then Jesse and Alex work with the maintenance team. Yeah, we basically just get to help out and do whatever we're told, and it's great. And I love it. So yeah, that's what we do.
Apprentices join us this year, to step in and to live life with us and to get a ministry experience, I would say like none other, and get to play along with all the crazy that we get to do, and then have the opportunity to do dishes or be on stage. So we didn't rock, paper, scissors that. This was just a plan, yeah. But yeah, this is also Cohen's first year at camp too, so yeah. Linnea, do you have something to say over there?
She always has something to say.
Well, my dad's telling me that I have to call for a video to be played.
She
We're
never
gonna-
listens to me, so I don't know why she's doing this.
You wrote
keeps
it down.
Writing these, I can't read your writing.
I'm going to call for the video while they figure it out. We're going to watch a quick video and then we're going to continue to, it has some stories in it. You may have seen it, some of you already, but it's a powerful testimony. And then these guys are going to share some of their stories from summer.
You are the light. You are the light in the darkness, like the morning is waking in my heart.
I remember one week I had a camper. At the beginning of the week, I asked him, like, hey, how would you describe your relationship with Jesus? Or who is Jesus to you? And he said, oh, I think he's some superficial story made up so that people can put their hope in something or someone.
It was the second week of summer. I was cabin leading at the fort. It was a junior high week. And one of my campers, he was having fun the whole time, but we never really connected. And then he came to me and asked if we could talk. And so we kind of sat outside in the grass while my co got the rest of the cabin ready for bed. And he opened up about some very hard things in his life.
And then by the end of the week, we're having another one-on-one conversation. And he says to me, Isaac, I think God's real. I think he's a real person that did exist. And I believe in him because I've seen and I've heard so many stories of the way that he has worked and the way that he does work. Like that's not anything that we did. That's simply him witnessing God's power through this space and environment where God's Spirit is present.
I opened up about some of my story. I got to tell him my testimony. And it was really cool to see the way that God, just worked in his heart. It was evident that he was pursuing after God.
One of my weeks when I had junior high campers, they were really on fire for God. It was really cool throughout the week to see how they wanted to develop a relationship with the Lord and to seek the Lord. We had a worship night, which was so cool. And two of my campers, they came up to me and they're like, Kayla, we want to give our lives fully to Jesus. They had come from Christian backgrounds, but they were like, we want to give our lives fully to the Lord. And then four of my other girls came up and they said, we want to pray too. We just want to rededicate our lives to the Lord. And so all six of us plus me prayed, and I just led them in a prayer of dedication and rededication to God. And then that night, we went up to Cross Hill and we prayed and just worshiped the Lord. And it was so cool just seeing these junior high girls want to follow Jesus and want to seek God.
Help me back. Great job. That's incredible. Was that not incredible, you guys, to see all of that? So how many campers this summer?
1702.
1702. Did you guys remember all the names? Is there a story that you have from this summer that is just, that you could share with us to just this is the story from this, that, this is why SABC?
Me first?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's so many stories I could tell you right now because, like, I can't even put it into words. There's no other place that people come and in 5 days, their life is completely changed, and they encounter the Lord. And if they've known Him before, their faith is deepened. And if they haven't known Him before, they get to experience His love for the first time. And just over and over and over again this summer, I was able to see Him work in kids' hearts. The first specific story that comes to my mind is week one. It was a crazy week, but I went into it, I was in a new role. My role this summer it's called a cabin circle director, which sounds really fancy, but really I just hung out with these kids and kind of got to help lead a cabin circle along with my so we helped kind of disciple the cabin leaders and then also help the kids, made sure that they were getting where they had to be and made sure their experience was full here at camp. So anyways, this was a totally new role for me. I was really nervous going into the week, kind of put, I think, limits on like what God could do. I was like, this is the first week, we'll see. I know He'll do things, but like it won't be the first week, right? I'm just getting used to this. Anyways, first week, Thursday night, we had a worship night. I feel like the guitar was out of tune or something. I was like, what happened? That was not very good. But then we walk up to the cabin circle, and these two girls come up to me and they're like, Nora, we want to pray. We want to give our lives to Jesus. And I was like, really? What? And so I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's pray. Let's talk this through and let's pray. And so we did, and we prayed, and these two girls committed their lives to Jesus. And then their cabin leader was like, we're going to go up the cross hill. Let's go. We can pray together or do whatever. And so these girls run off and they go up the cross hill. And I was just like, what just happened? That was crazy. Anyways, they go up. Everyone else has kind of gone to sleep. Thursday night, we're a little lenient on the bedtime. So they're up there. They're doing their thing. I know their cabin leader is responsible, so I'm just waiting for them to come back. And the cabin circle is pretty quiet, but all of a sudden I start to hear like crying. And I was like, what is happening? This is not what I thought would happen up there. And like the crying was quite loud. They were, I don't know, really moved to tears. And I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? I got to prepare myself for when they come back. I got to deal with this situation. But these girls come down, and there's about 8 of them in their cabin. I think one of the other girls was with somebody else, so there were 7 of them. They came down. All of them were crying. They came up to me. They ran into the circle. They gave me a big hug. And I was like, what happened, you guys? And they're like, the Lord is so good. And they're just weeping. Like, I've never seen someone moved to tears like that before, but like bawling because God is so good. And they were praying for each other. It wasn't that their cabin leader was like, okay, now let's pray together. They were actually praying for each other. And they said, can we pray for you, Nora? We just really like love the Lord, and we want to be praying for each other and for you. And it's pretty cool because these girls, I didn't know them before this summer, but they ended up coming to youth at Lethbridge where I volunteer. And now they're in my small group, actually. And so I've been able to walk with them, and they've had more encounters with Christ, and not just encounters that are superficial and emotional, but like lasting changes in their life. And one of these girls came up to me just a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how we are the light of the world, the salt of the earth. And she said, I've never really understood like that whole salt of the earth thing, but she said, I really see that God has called me to be different than my friends and called me to be the salt of the earth. And it's pretty incredible to see how this 5 days, literally 5 days, God can do a work that will change kids' lives for the rest of their life.
That's amazing. It's incredible. Also, yeah, please. Also, asking for a friend, if you could explain all the reasons why teenage girls cry, that'd be helpful.
I don't know, but God did it, okay?
All right, Cohen, you're next.
One story that really stands out to me, this was week 4 at the fort, is junior high week. And I shared my testimony at the campfire. And after that, there's this one camper that came to me after, and we chatted for a little bit. He opened up about some things that were going on in his life. And earlier throughout the week, he was really struggling with like a lot of big questions about God. And then after, he came to me and asked if I could pray for him. And then that was just like a super special moment for me, because throughout the first few weeks, I was just on media and struggling to like find ways to connect with the campers. Then God just opened that door and then let me pray for him. And then after, when he was leaving, like to see he's just a changed person is so cool what God is doing here at camp. And thank you for all your support for making that possible. It's so cool.
That's awesome. And he said that without Tanya's prompting.
Was that me? I don't know how you guys remember what week things were. In my mind, they're all the same week. So yeah, it's impressive. But my story, I got to work with some of the support staff this summer, which was so incredible and just, yeah, it was really impactful even for my faith to see how they grew in serving the Lord here at camp. But yeah, one story that I come back to when I think about how God worked this summer, obviously we know the theme of the summer was glow, and it was one of the very first nights that this staff was here, and we were talking and she was opening up to me about some of the harder things that she had been walking in her life. And I remember her telling me, she was like, Hannah, I just can't see God in the darkness. Like I don't see where God is, my darkness. And I was like, yeah, like that's hard. Like, and we talked and I prayed with her. And yeah, the rest of the weeks that she was here for quite a few weeks, which was such a blessing. But yeah, one of the last nights she came up to me and she was like, you know, one of the things I learned this summer is how to see God in my darkness. And I can see where he was in my darkness and I know where to find him when darkness comes back. And sorry, I'm gonna cry now, but that was just so beautiful for me to see how she could recognize where God was in the heart of her life. And even though the theme glow wasn't necessarily taken into like the staff chapels or things, the things she was learning even from the campers chapels and working and cleaning bathrooms and the building was just so beautiful. And I think that, yeah, just watching staff be able to learn and grow in their faith through doing tasks, even like cleaning toilets, was really cool for me to see. And yeah, it really impacted me and was so awesome. So that's one of my stories from summer.
Awesome. Awesome. You giving me the nod to go ahead, Linnea?
Yep.
Thank you. Tony, is there anything else you want to ask these guys or prompt them that you want them to share or talk about from their experience this summer?
I just want to say thanks to you guys. You guys rent a pretty incredible group of people who poured out all that they had and allowed God to shine through you guys. Each of you are a part of the stories that I get to tell. That is one of the greatest privileges of being Scott's brother, sister. Oh, wait, no, being the program manager here is getting to work with you guys and getting to carry your stories in little ways and to get to share what God has done through you guys, through being nervous about doing a new role in a place that is literal home for you, from jumping into a job that you weren't sure how it was going to get to impact kids, and watching you wait for God to give you that opportunity and to follow him into it. I actually got to see that moment, and it is one of my favorite moments that God brings back to me. Happened to be at the fort that evening and got to like watch that moment happen. And so God's the privilege of that. And then you getting to walk along with young high school kids in the work. There's so much work to be done here at camp to make it happen. But these 4 are just simply a small representation of the incredible group of young people that God works in and works through and uses to carry the light, and then continues into outside of the camp season. It's so short. It feels long some days, but it's so short. And each of them I know is seeing God move as a result of what they got to be a part of this summer. And it really, I'm just so grateful. And each of them also represent very different roles at camp. And you got to hear from cabin leaders on the video. But so and when we talk to youth pastors, We hear just the impact that this summer has had on their leaders and their students. And so we're so grateful. And I echo Cohen's words of just thank you for your support and for all that you guys do to help us hire the immense amount and the most incredible young people. So if you hear out in the world that next generation is not great, well, they're wrong. This generation and the ones that they're getting to work with, it's incredible what God is doing. His light is brighter and brighter and brighter, and he is not done. He is the light of the world, and he's going to shine, shine, shine. So yeah, it's pretty great. Nora?
Thing to say. Me and my grandpa were reading on the way here about the history of SABC, and we read about how it was started by these Bible school students our age who just wanted to share Jesus with people in this area that was unreached at the time. And it is an honor to follow in their footsteps and be those young people that are serving. But yeah, like Tanya said, would not be possible apart from you guys and how faithful you are with what God has given you and how you support us. And so from the young people that are doing it, we thank you. And it is an honor to do this alongside you and to partner with you to serve and love on these kids because they need it. And we are all in this for Jesus, and it's pretty cool to do this with you. So thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
You guys go.
All right, we're out of here.
What's that?
We're out of here.
Okay, we'll let you guys off stage. Let's give them one more round of applause for all the summer staff that come out.
I think it's time, Dad.
John, you're next. Oh, what do you think's next?
John.
For John? While John's coming up, would you like to
meant to
tell
prepare
a
him.
story about your favorite time John cried this summer?
Okay.
There's so many to choose from, I'm sure.
Every like Sunday, we would get into like the chapel downstairs, and like he would like start crying to us, being like, "This is gonna be a great week," and he would just be like bawling.
Every week?
Yeah, every week I was there, and then on Fridays too, he would be crying because he was like while he's praying to us because of all the stuff that was happening
He
that week.
saves it up during the rest of the week.
Yep.
Yeah, Fridays and Sundays are his crying days.
Yep.
John, I hear it gets worse as we get older. From the board members, apparently, it's expect more tears. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, into the mic. Yes. It's your first time on stage. I know you get so nervous when you're around me.
When I'm with you, I'm very nervous. Yes.
John, you noticed that this year my parents weren't here. They're away on a trip, but they trusted that I'd be okay on my own. Left me their grandchild to keep track of me. And I noticed that after, how many years have you been working here?
Well, I've been here since 91 full time.
Yeah, since 91, and they're finally taking the training wheels off, and your father-in-law, is going to leave you to work here on your own.
Guess so. I guess. Yes, finally trusts me.
I've believed in you the whole time.
It was that old fox in the hen house thing that just,
You broke trust so early on, and he's been sticking around to make sure things were going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. Like, I know that sometimes when we go through the business stuff, it's not really exciting. Not as exciting as, say, me and Linnea. Anyways, but when I hear the financial reports and I hear that God is blessing this place, I know that in our own life and in other organizations we work with, when I hear that there's blessings coming, I know that God is getting ready to move. We are getting prepared for whatever God has ready for this place. Like, how exciting is that for you to go after all these years? There's new and exciting. God is prepping this place. There's finances, there's things in place. Who knows what God has next for us? Like, how exciting is that?
Scott, it's just an interesting place to be. And I mean, I'm just very humbled by that. And I think the challenge, what we've always tried to do is spend the money wisely, be good stewards, because it's not ours. It's people who have supported the camp, who understand the ministry, or who love what God is doing here. And we need to stay true to that mission. And yeah, I don't know all the things that's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen next week, let alone next year. But it's interesting because you said that now, and others have said that to me. Who knows what God has for us, and so that's a little scary, but it's very exciting as well.
Yeah.
So.
Now, do you have something to tell all these people who want me to put a podium up so you can talk to them?
I feel more comfortable that way, but
Perfect.
thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Do you want the stand?
Scott and Lene, it's so good to have you guys here. Thank you. Thank you for being kind to me as well. I want to thank you all for coming as well. These days are pretty special. If you talk to my wife, you'll know that I get very, very stressed out leading up to these days. I don't know. Hey, Luke, you're here. Can't see everybody from down there. But it's just special. All these friends of SABC here and being able to share about what God's doing. And they do a much better job of it than I do. To share it with you a little bit about, kind of my perspective. Rick, is that you? Rick's here too. No, that's not Rick. That's Ernie. I'm sorry. I get distracted very easily up here. But again, I know most of you, not all of you, and I know a little bit about your stories here at SABC too. And it's a real privilege to serve you all here at camp. So thank you for coming. As you know, we've been trying to talk and communicate about how the stories that are happening here. And I want to reiterate what Scott said too. You have those papers on your things. I have Tricia Eichhorst. I don't know if she's here, but she's helping me. Yeah, she's back there. She's helping me trying to capture the history of the camp in a way that we can actually share it in a better way. And a lot of the time that I've been here, the history hasn't been written down. But there's also things we don't have pictures. We don't have a ton of pictures from way back when as well. And we're trying to gather those those things before we aren't able to anymore. And so if you have stories, we'd love to hear. If you want a further story, further talk about it, we'd love to interview you and talk with you, not on camera or anything, but just to capture your story, to know the things that happened up till today. Today we found out that 2 of our long-serving board members are making a way for others to carry on the responsibility of serving in that manner. It was also referenced the story Dave Coots talked about how when we were sitting it was in our garage actually at our house. We had a makeshift room and had tables set up, and we talked about are we going to proceed and I remember. Now, sometimes my memory doesn't serve me correct, but I know that Arnie Reimer has such a humble heart, and he's always been that way. And just his prayer, like when we had a prayer time after that, just the way that he prayed for the camp and the way he thanked the Lord, and it was just full of gratefulness for what God had done at that point, and just allowing us to move to the next stage. And we didn't know what was going to happen then, but we were just so grateful in that time. And all along the way, Arnie has been that kind of person to me, like an encouragement, just a humble person. He's not loud, and he's not, this is my idea, you got to do it, but always generous in that, maybe I'm not right here, but this is what I think. And I've really appreciated you, Arnie, and I'm going to miss you. But I'm still going to see you in church, so I don't know. Doug Munton finally is trusting me to carry this on. Before I was in the hen house, Doug I was here, and I was a program director. And I remember Doug just talking to me and saying, hey, like, I'm just this young buck, not knowing everything about camp. And there was this conference in Seattle, CCI National Conference for US and Canada. And he asked me, would you like to go to this? And I said, yeah, but there's no way I can get there. He said, I'll just go and just give me the bill. And so at an early young age, just trying to figure out if this was my thing, if this was what I needed to do, trying to get some tools to help me to do this job better. Doug, wherever you stepped up and you just offered that to me. And that was a huge encouragement to me at that time in my young career, to be a part of Christian camping. I'm going to miss you, although I'm going to see you every Sunday. So, some have said, Ted talks about nepotism. Some have said, you got the treasurer and the director kind of in cahoots with each other about everything. I tell you, you don't want your father-in-law as your treasurer, especially not this one. No, I'm just kidding. We've worked really well together, but he's hard, and he sees everything, and that has been a significant thing for this camp, as we can see, and so it's been a privilege. As has been previously mentioned, it's been a significant and tremendous year financially for the camp. One of my most enjoyable jobs is just to open the mail. And I get to read the letters and read see the donations that come in. I see the bills as well, but those are just part of it. There are still many people, some people give, I know a lot of you in this room give electronically or whatever, but there's still many people who sit down, write a check with a note attached, put it in an envelope and pay for the postage to mail it to SABC. And I am humbled by that simple gesture. People actually took time to make a donation to the camp. There's this guy from Ontario. He sends a monthly check. I tried to get him on the electronic thing, but he sends a monthly check, $30 a month. And when I talk to him, he just says, I just love what you guys are doing, what you guys stand. He's never been here before, but he's heard through friends of the camp what's happening here at camp. And he said, I just love what you do, and I want to make sure that kids get to come who can't afford to come to camp. This past year, why are finances so great? Well, this past year we had some anomalies. We had a couple anonymous donations that came in. I don't know, they could be you guys. I don't know, but I'm never going to know. Maybe it doesn't matter. But $200,000 donations on 2 different occasions. And I phoned the third party and I asked them the name and they wouldn't tell me. But it's against humbling. There's people who don't even want the glory. They don't even want the acknowledgement that they gave this gift to the camp. And what a significant blessing that it has been. We also received a substantial amount of money, which was a residual of an estate from an individual. And again, as has been stated at our last board meeting, we're all just blown away. It's just like you just sit there. We're in this kind of place that it's different, but it's cool. Have to figure out how we're going to move from here. You maybe see the tractor and the skid steer out here. There are a number of individuals that gave towards this project. With the guys from Kubota, they don't really tell me numbers. So we said, well, if we raise $100,000, we'll get a tractor. Oh yeah, well, we'll figure how that works. Anyways, it ended up being, if we raised $140,000, we would get a skid steer and a tractor. And it cost way more than that, but they said they would do it. So I was about $110,000. I didn't know what I was going to do. I needed to raise these funds, and all of the blue, this phone call comes. It says, hey, John, how's it going? What's going on these days? Hey, it's great. How are you doing? I'm not going to go through the whole conversation, but it was like, what's going on? Well, the camp actually is in a very good place. Our all aboard fund is healthy. We've got a capital fund is doing fairly well. Well, what are you raising money for? I said, I'm raising some money for a tractor. I got $30,000 left All I heard was on the phone was, done. He just said, done. And I was a little awkward because it was like, done? You mean done? Yeah, I'll send you the money. Thanks for telling me. Great chat. See you later. And this tractor and skid steer have been a huge encouragement to our maintenance team. You know, when you have tools, and it's all strategic. It's not like we just want a big tractor. It's all strategic. If you talk to John Keller, he'll tell you why that tractor is the right tractor for what we need here at the camp for many, many reasons. These are part of the stories of camp. I think over the years that I've been here, I could write an entire book and about the generosity of the individuals for camp. I think my greatest fear is that people might think we're swimming in money and it's going to stop. And I'm like, well, we still got things to do. And I even look at a budget, and my staff know I stress about getting a budget together for the coming year, because on October 1, which is our new fiscal year, we start from scratch again. And so I just, yeah, it's a really neat place to be trying to figure out what that means moving forward. Our staff, I can't say enough about our staff team. You know, I stand here and I'm the face, you know, I guess I'm the best looking one here and I get to stand here. Yeah, right. But I get to stand here. I get to tell you everything that's going on. But you know what? Our staff are an incredible group of individuals. And I think like a perfect, like something like this here. I mean, this happened. It doesn't just happen. These people don't just happen, come up here. Like, there's things that happen to allow this to happen. The grounds look fantastic because you got people working hard to make sure that everything's taken care of, that the doors are opening and closing properly, that the bathrooms are working properly. I mean, you're going to eat some great food today. And we've got a program team that runs an incredible summer program. And so it's a privilege for me to lead a camp team like this. I in your book, like wherever these books are, these books here, you can just look at this. I'm so proud of this. Joel did an incredible job. But there are stories in here, more stories that you can read. I'm not going to go through them all. But on the back page, there's also a list of all of our staff. And on that list, we've got some camp grandparents. Now, they aren't here today because they're south, they're in California. Hopefully they made it. But they're in California right now because they're serving for about 6 months of the year down there, and then they come up here and they serve for 6 months here on a volunteer basis here at SABC. We've got a guy, he's jack of all trades. That's his job title, because he comes here, and he's south now too. He's working at Wycliffe this summer or this winter. But he helps our maintenance team, and he does all the little jobs. I don't even know why he likes doing those jobs, because nobody likes doing them, but he does them, and he does them without complaint, and he just loves being a part of our team. We're so grateful for him to be a part of our team. We actually also hired Jackie Steves as well, and grateful wherever she is here, somewhere there she is. She just started, but I'm thankful that she's a part of our team. You know, I'm not going to list all of our staff, but please, if you see them or whatever after this thing, just thank them, because they're an incredible group of people. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I know we're getting on in time here. I want to talk, there's a colorful sheet in your paper or in your packet. It's our capital projects. You know, for the last 5 years, we've been, for the last 4 years, we have a 5-year capital plan. And now it's entering its 4th year. There have been some significant efforts to address the following 5 key areas. So debt repayment, that's done. We got no more debt, which is unbelievable. We've got direct camper impact, a program vibe, which is for desire for excellence in our program. We've got site improvements and vehicles and equipment. And so, where's my sheet of paper? There it is. So I just want to go through a little bit. The yellow part is what we were proposing, and they're attached to a number. The bottom number is, sorry, the bottom number is about $360,000. And a lot of these are estimates, and so they aren't the exact amounts, and so they could increase or decrease depending on how things go. But just so you're aware, the yellow parts are in the different areas. That's what we're proposing for this year. The ones that are in the gray, and I want us to look in that section for a little bit. If you look all the gray, all these projects have been completed over the last 4 years. And I mean, there's one line item where it says Hillside Cabins upgrade, a renovation of all the cabins. And so Lakeside and Hillside Cabins have all been renovated. They got new floors and flooring in them. They got new doors in them. They've got new heaters in them. You know, a few years ago, it wasn't long ago, at one of our men's retreats, some of the men that came to one of our retreats, they slept in our bathroom because there was a heated floor in the bathroom. And so, anyways, now we have heaters that they can use in those cabins. But this is what I want to mention too. All what you see here, that it's very strategic. And so when you see something like a boat lift, that's kind of a nice little thing for you guys to have there. Well, what the boat lift actually does is actually allows us to actually take care of our boats. It allows us, because weather comes up fast and it can change just like that. We've actually lost a boat. It's sunk right on our dock just because it was docked there. So being able to have a boat lift that you can drive up, lift it up out of the water, kids are safe, everybody's good, is like amazing. And then the efficiencies that go along with something like a boat lift as well. You don't have to have a dedicated vehicle to back up for every single one of those boats, to back them up, and all the wear and tear that goes into that. And then where do you put them? You got to have these vehicles dedicated just in case of the weather. And so again, all I'm saying is that there's strategic in why we want to add some of these things. You know, life jackets, that isn't very strategic. We don't really need life jackets, but we thought maybe we should have some. Oh, thanks for laughing. Thanks, Scott. My sarcasm. But yeah, so the gray areas are the ones that have been completed. The yellow ones is what we want to propose. When we go into program Vibe, one of our probably most popular activities this summer was the aqua park. It was awesome, you guys. I heard that they put up to 120 kids on that thing. I don't know how they did that. I'm just simply amazed that that thing survived our windstorms all summer long. But that is due to our maintenance team and how they anchored it and those kind of things. And so we feel confident to add to it because of the success of that. When you go down to site improvements, I don't know if we put on this thing that we've wanted to add trees for the last 20 years, Well, we want to do it. We need to do it. We need to add trees because we're starting to lose them. We had a guy come in here and chop down a few trees because they were dead. And so we need to start replacing them. Most of this is self-explanatory, but you can read through it and you can take it home and see what we need to go through. When we then look at the red, none of that has actually been approved. Some of them have been approved in kind of theory that this is the direction we want to head. But this is a lot of what our staff are proposing as far as these are some of the needs for the future, as far as what we need at the camp to continue to be an organization that is taking care of our property, that is actually running first-class programs for young people and children. And so if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them sometime. Maybe now. I don't know. We're running out of time, though. I want to just got to see where I am here. We're going to do budget I think I'm doing it with Doug. Yeah. So I just want to get to the end of my thing here. Kayla's yawning. She's ready to go home. So Sorry, Kayla. I got the message. I'm sorry. You know, I just want to close. By just again, thank you. I think our member churches are a significant part of the camp. And, you know, there's ebbs and flows of that. Some churches, I know that there's one church specific that is just like so incredibly bought into the camp, which they not necessarily haven't been in the past as much. But just as churches grasp and see the vision and see how camp can further the ministry or further the ministry, contribute to the ministry of the church. I just see such strength in that. We are meant, I've written in that book, we're meant to be on our own here at the camp. We can't do it on our own. I don't think that it's God's purpose for us to do it on our own. And as we're hand in hand with churches, as we partner with them, I just think that that's what makes camp strong. And so I just want to thank our churches for being a significant part of the camp. We have a dream to double our impact here over the next 10 years. And that's not by adding capacity. We're not going to build more cabins. We're not going to build more lodges. That's by utilizing what we have in a better way. In a more creative way, potentially. And so a lot of what the budget is that we will present in a little bit, it involves that. And it just, like, seriously, guys, I'm so excited. Like, can you imagine impacting 5,000 lives to the ministry of SABC? That's amazing. Anyways, that is my report. Do I just invite Doug up and do you want me to do it with you, or do you want me to just to do it, Doug? Thank you.
Okay, you're all getting hungry? Yep, okay. Proposed budget, you got that sheet in your booklet there. The proposed budget is on the very left-hand column, and then you have the actuals last year, the budget last year, and so forth and so on. It's really, look at the numbers really, really quick. There's not too much out of the ordinary, except on the wages side is a fair bit of an increase, but we've already talked to the apprentice program. And as we do more rentals, more registrations, the staff are like, they're to the nth degree. So we need help. So we brought in the apprentice program. And I think not only help with the rentals and the registrations, but these apprentices, the time they spend here will affect their lives through eternity. And that's what we're all about here. This staffing is not just to get the job done, although it is, but our staff are impacted by the ministry and what we accomplish here. So that's part of the budget, an increase there. Otherwise, I don't know that we have to say too much more about the operating budget. The rentals, most of that is already booked. Lori does an amazing job. Camp registrations. Again, we look at what happened last year and what we see for the future. So we're expecting about 2.5 in revenues and 2.6 in expenses. John was quite fretting about we're showing a little bit of a deficit there, but if you look at the what happened last year, and that includes the campership income. So really with the campership income in the operating fund, we show a surplus of $240,000 last year. This year, and this is just a roadmap, a bit of a guideline. How it all plays out is how it all plays out. So the budget calls for a little bit of a deficit, but I don't think don't get us wrong, we're not heading down the deficit stream that our governments and everything else put forward. But we're not ashamed of saying we had a good year last year. This year, we might be a few dollars short or break even, or who knows, I'm thinking we'll probably be looking at a surplus next year as well. But anyway, that's the proposed budget. Any questions on that? Don't be shy. Okay, I think this budget comes as a motion moved and seconded by the board. So Ted will ask for a aye.
We're going to change the minute slightly. Doug's proposed that the budget be adopted, it's an operating budget, be adopted by the general membership. I need a second for that motion. John's father. Yeah, I know it's Ron. No, I have no idea what anybody's names are. I got Addie Tony and I got Linnea's other parent. Less popular. All in favor, say aye. Capital.
Okay, capital, John's done a really, really good job on this. So we should probably spend an hour going through that, but who's giggling? We won't. But take this home and study it and get back to John on it. A lot of thought with the staff and everything has gone into that. And the summary of what we're proposing this year ends up on line items there, boat lift and so forth, totaling to $360,000. We're suggesting that we have a break-even budget in the capital fund, and we'll have money in the capital fund to go forward. And a big part of that going forward is there's an item in there, future considerations, studying, site plan, whatever, and there's a $50,000 in there to do some work in that regard. The wonderful thing about this capital budget is every year, I think, that I have ever presented a capital budget is we have these line items that we want to really, really do. But unless the money comes in, we can't move ahead. The money is there. We approve this budget, John can go and buy a vehicle. Now, I think somewhere along the way he talked about a Suburban or something, but that's kind of not the best language under my view. So we might be looking at an Expedition or something. I'm not sure. But I guess not my say anymore. So Julie, help me out here. Anyway, I think this is an encouragement to the staff, to John. We got money in the capital fund. These things are very, very well thought out. Now we just have to implement them.
Doug's made a motion to adopt the capital budget. I need a second. Jason Laturnus. See, I got both names. All in favor, say aye. And that too is carried. Thank you both. Tim, when I'm done, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. You didn't know you were on the agenda? Oh, yeah. Tim knew. Linnea, thank you. It's important. It's really important to see Linnea here. The symbolism of having a camper is huge. This place is about children. It's amazing. Linnea, I'm afraid you're going to be here a long time now. You can bring Scott. On your budget, on your last year's expenses, you'll see a line item for seasonal staff. $375,000 is spent on staff here during the summer. That's a big deal. That's 82 young people, and you saw 3 of them. You saw Kayla, right, on screen. There's 82 young people that are here and get paid. That's hugely important. In fact, we also were blessed to give $47,500 in scholarships to individuals that work here. That's an amazing impetus help for our recruiters to find more staff for next summer. God changes lives at SABC. There were 1,702 campers. We count them because every life counts. 294 seasonal staff total, paid and unpaid. That's a lot of lives. God changes lives at SABC. Stories live here. This is the first year that one of my grandchildren have been a volunteer, one of those 284 at camp. She was a camper and she was a volunteer. In the summer, Todd and Lindsay, her parents, texted her grandmother and I and said, Addie wants to be baptized on Saturday. Can you come out? They were out camping. Addie asked her mom and dad if she could be baptized that weekend in Chinook Lake. God changes lives. Stories live here. And that's part of my story. It's part of Todd and Lindsay's story. And it's part of Addie's story. Your presence here is symbolic, and it's also important. You're committed to that mission with everybody you've seen on stage, your partners, and we recognize that. We're grateful. So 2 things. Pastor Tim, will you come? And then Linnea, it's up to you. Right after Tim. Thanks, brother. Thanks, Ted.
How many of you heard of the Lord's Prayer?
All right.
Any of you? Luke? Get your hand up, man. Oh, yeah, that good question. It's still a great prayer to pray, but there's a very dangerous part in that prayer. Your will be done. That takes you right out of the picture. Takes me out of the picture, turns it back to God, and let him do what he's going to do. I don't think anybody from Frank and Marlene or anybody else that's been on that board could have envisioned what God would do today. Your will be done. Let's stand together. Father, thanks for the stories. They're God's stories, and they're all about you. Thanks for the part that many, many people have played over the years. Many of them have gone home to be with you. But we rejoice in the seeds that they planted in their participation for this ministry. But there's a future. It's been mentioned several times today. You always have next. And you only do today to prepare us for next. So I pray for that. That next will be a great time of ministry, lives changed, spread throughout the world because of the ministry of SABC. Thank you. You use us, simple, humble, common people, to do more than we could imagine. And we're grateful because you're God and we're not. And we're sure grateful for that. Thank you for your goodness, and pray that the future will be yours and we'll be ready to serve. And for that next generation coming along, that they will stand for you and for the cause of Christ. We thank you for that in Jesus' name. Would you please join me in those 4 very dangerous words? Your will be done. Oh, they didn't hear you in the kitchen. Let's do it again. Your will be done. Amen.
We're over time. We want to respect what Dave's done down there. So just the last few things before we head down for lunch. Linnea?
Thank you guys so much for coming. It's been great.
Wow.
I like
Doesn't sound so-
being-
Is it me or them? We don't need to stack the chairs, so you can just walk away from those and we're done. We want to thank our media team. Everybody give a round of applause to Jordan and Josh. We are all abusive of all these microphones and they make it sound great.
Make sure to fill out those story cards and then put them in the crate in the dining hall.
I want to ask for patience for just a couple more minutes because Linnea, I want to hear what your story is from this summer.
There's so many stories, but I can't really pick one, but I'm really grateful for all the friends I made this summer and that they're really fun to be around. And then I can also talk to them about all these things, not just stupid stuff, but like also about God and all these things. It's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that sometimes friends have been a challenge. Girls can be mean. And this summer you found friends that were life-changing. Eh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a story about chicken and poop that you decided not to tell. I want to tell a little bit of my story too, is that I did grow up here, but I also have the privilege of knowing many, many camps throughout this country. I have friends who work at many different places. And when I say that I grew up at SABC and that I have friends and family that work here, they go, SABC? It is the peak of what they look to be like. And when they'll ask me questions about what they're doing there and what changes are happening and what's happening at SABC, the staff that God has brought here, the things that God has done here is noticed throughout the country. I hope you all get a chance to hear some of the stories. Make sure you talk to staff, summer staff, people here, and hear some of the stories they're glad to share. Share your story about what's happening here at camp. SABC is a special place. Make sure you get involved with what God is doing here at SABC. And now lunch. Let's go.